Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Well, if you're a typewriter collector, the idea of continuous improvement might be familiar to you. You might want to make your collection of typewriters as good as possible. Whether that's just doing the basics of cleaning and degreasing and servicing to get them back into good operating order, or maybe repainting the typewriter or replacing the rubber parts or the feet or even the lining underneath the bottom plate or adding soundproofing or sound insulation. But you also might have some basic mechanical issues you need to take care of, and that has been the case with this ongoing project of mine, this Groma Kolibri. A few years ago, I got it from my friend Kevin, and its most notable issue back then was it had an intermittent skipping problem. And I did a lot of work to try to resolve it, and the final thing that resolved the skipping problem was really pretty simple. I added a spring onto the escapement rocker to increase the speed at which the escapement rocker resets back to the home position after you've typed a letter. And ever since then, this machine has been working really well, and I've been really happy with it, except I noticed recently, and this is something that's been going on for ever since I've had it, the touch was pretty good on it, but I actually thought it felt a little light. Almost when you first start the keystroke, it felt just a little like the feeling of pushing a brake pedal and there's no pressure there. I wanted a little bit more spring tension throughout the entire stroke of the key operation, keeping in mind, of course, these machines don't have touch control or touch adjustment. So I had to go in there and figure out how I was going to add a little bit more spring tension to there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to flip this machine over onto a towel, take the bottom off, and show you what I did. Stay tuned. Okay, like I always do, I will set a padded towel down to protect the typewriter. And of course, I'm going to want to move the carriage a little to the left so the arm isn't going to potentially hit the ribbon cover. And I will flip it over onto our towel. Here we are. Going to have to take off these 2 feet, loosen these screws, and take the bottom off. And I've done this so many times working on this machine. It almost seems second nature to me now to take these feet off. By the way, I should show you, I don't remember if I mentioned this the last time we did a Kolibri video, but these little feet here, the little metal covers, one side of it is just brushed metal or whatever, and the other side, this side right here, is chrome plated. So you want to make sure this side is oriented to the outside like this so you can see the chrome plating. When I first got this machine, they were actually turned around so you couldn't see the chrome plated rim. Okay, now there's also several washers that are on the back here. I don't want to lose those. They were like little spacer washers. There's one on the other side also, right here. Save those. Then I'm going to loosen these 2 back screws on the, I guess, the front screws. And then the whole panel can just slide off like that. So before we get into how I'm going to increase the spring tension on the touch, I wanted to just show you what I did last time, which was I added this spring right here. It's anchored to a frame member behind here, and it anchors to the arm of the escapement rocker. The escapement rocker is tripped on this side by the key operation and on the other side by the space bar. So this just makes the escapement rocker return to the home position a little more snappily, if snappily were an actual word. So this is looking underneath the machine into where the linkages are, and you might be able to see behind these linkages there is this faint universal bar that I'm moving right now as I'm operating one of the keys. And this machine does not have a touch adjustment. So typewriters with touch adjustments, basically what the adjustment's doing is adjusting the spring tension on the universal bar. So when the key lever linkage presses on the universal bar, the tension on the bar gives you a feedback in the keys that it controls how the touch feels, how heavy or how light it is. So you can see this arm right here is operating the universal bar, which in turn is operating down here of the ribbon advance and lifting the vibrator. So what I've done here is this little spring I've added. It connects to this lever, and it hooks around the frame member right here, and when the cover of the machine is on, it keeps that from moving around and potentially sliding off the corner there. So it works pretty good, and it really does add additional spring tension that I needed it to add in order to feel the way I wanted the touch to feel. So a real simple add of a spring right there, very similar to what I did with the escapement rocker. And all we have to do now is put this machine back together, put the bottom plate on, and then locate our two little washers. And the way I can tell these washers went here is because they actually made a little mark on the paint when they were locked down originally. Get those washers centered up, and then and I make sure, again, the chromed rim of this foot is facing to the outside so we can enjoy the nice appearance of the chrome trim. It's one of the things I really like about the Kolibris is they went to the trouble of chroming a lot of parts just to show the capitalist West that they could make a high quality, very beautiful, aesthetically pleasing typewriter. And I think that's a cool idea. They were very proud of their workmanship, and we should be ready to go. All right. Well, I'm sure people are going to ask me where I got my assortment of little springs from, and it happens to be that I had this old kit of VCR parts. This is PRB line, PRB company. I don't even think they're in business anymore. Projector Recorder Belt Corporation. So back in the day, they supplied rubber belts and a lot of parts for VCRs. And this particular kit not only had VCR washers, split washers, and things like that, but it had this little assortment of tiny little springs right here, and that's where I've harvested these parts from to get this Kolibri working better. But I'm sure if you do a little search on the internet, you can find other kits like this with assortments of tiny little springs that might be just the thing you need to improve your typewriter. So before I added the spring, there was a little bit of kind of a looseness to the key travel, especially at the start of the travel. It didn't really give you much feedback until you were halfway through the stroke. But now I feel a gentle but steady spring tension from the very start of the keystroke all the way through. And it doesn't get too heavy or too excessive, but it just gives kind of a nice solidity to the keystroke that it didn't have before. And that's kind of what I was hoping for in this machine. You know, I have the skipping problem fixed. Now the touch is just a little bit nicer than it was before. Well, okay, let's give this thing a spin, shall we? Oh yes, very, very nice. And you know, the imprint quality is really nice now that I've put the cotton ribbon into this machine that was originally in my Royal KMM. Just everything about this machine is just so much better now. I think continuous improvement is a really important part of being a typewriter hobbyist. You don't have to make dramatic, spectacular improvements all at once on your collection, but steady, small, incremental improvements over time is really the way to go, the most sustainable thing. And I think the person that I know in the typewriter community that best epitomizes the idea of continuous improvement is my friend Ted Monk. Check out his blog. He does really a lot of cool stuff with improving his typewriters over time. This typewriter here has taken me a few years, actually, but it's really now at the place where I really like using it. Dark imprint, no skipping, nice touch, beautiful little ultra portable. Well, I hope you guys find your typewriter collection to be very satisfying to you and to enable you to be creative. Well, until next time, have yourselves a great day. Bye-bye for now.